All right. All right. Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, I want to give our praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Giving double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Peace and salutations to the Akim, the brethren out there on the highways and byways pushing this truth with 100% sincerity. And peace and salutations to the few and sincere sisters who believe in this gospel. All right. So I can get a little bit more light over here. Okay. Okay. So I may entitle this video lesson, or it's the title here already, or for this live stream, The End of This World in the Beginning of Our New World. Basically, what I want to go into on this lesson is really just speak on the beginning of the world that is for the Israelites, so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and then the end of this world that we're currently living in that is ruled by Esau Edom, right? So-called white man. And this is who is currently running every area of activity, financial, spiritual, unless you're in this truth. I believe there's 9 areas of activity in life that we have. I can't remember all of them off the bat, but 2 of them definitely are financial and spiritual, right? And by being in this truth and having this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the Holy Scriptures, we have taken back control of the spiritual side of things, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? Matter of fact, let me start off with Job. We'll start off with the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24, and it reads, it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he, right? So, slide here. Okay, there we go. So, this, let me read it again. Let me read it again. Job 9 and verse 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is it, right? So, the hand of the wicked, which is who? Esau Edom. Salakia, 1 second. Okay. I had a little pop up on my. Who's the wicked? Esau Edom, right? You can go to Malachi chapter 1 and read. Really, you can read starting at verse 1 down to about 4 or 5, and you can see who is considered the wicked or the border of wickedness, right? And Esau Edom is the border of wickedness, right? And we know through biblical descriptions, biblical prophecy, and how biblical prophecy lines up with the things that we see today, we know and understand that Esau Edom is the so-called white man, right? So, and we can tell this by we looking at who's ruling the earth. Who's ruling the earth right now? The earth is being ruled by the so-called white man. That's how we believe and know him to be Esau Edom, right? And also historical factors in the Bible too that line up, specifically in the book of Maccabees, first Maccabees, especially, that shows us and describes who the Greeks were. We know that the Greeks were Edomites, right? The children of Esau, those were so-called white people. You know what I'm saying? So we know that this earth is currently being ruled by the so-called white man. When we just look at everything that's going on and happening in this world, we know who this world is ruled by. And biblical prophecy says that the earth will be ruled in the end by Esau Edom. So if you look at who is ruling the world, and if you look at biblical prophecy, you can see clearly who Esau Edom is. You can see that Esau Edom is a so-called white man, right? Now, is every white person an Edomite? No, not every white person in the world is an Edomite, right? We preach lineage, and we really know by the Spirit, but Numbers 1 and 18, your lineage goes back through the seed of your father, right? So whoever your father is whoever you are. So just because somebody may be a so-called white person by the skin color, that does not necessarily mean that they're an Edomite. And even just because somebody is a so-called black person by their skin color, that does not necessarily mean that they're an Israelite, right? We go by the Spirit, as it says in the book of Acts. I believe it's the book. Let's go get it. Yeah, Acts chapter 8 and verse 16. And it reads, it says, the Spirit beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High, right? So we go based on the Spirit. So, so we know that when somebody, walks upon us, for example, at camp or something like that, and they may look like a so-called white person, we try the Spirit by the Spirit. We test their spirit to see if this is an Edomite or it could be an Israelite, right? Israelites are going to be looking like various different nations all across the world because we've been scattered to the four corners of the earth. You know what I'm saying? So not every Israelite is your typical black person, Hispanic, or Native American, Native American looking person, right? But we do know that the ruler of this current kingdom is Esau Edom, who happens to be the so-called white man, right? So let's go here to 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 7, and it reads, it says, but the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer, right? So the end of all things, this world, the society, these jobs, the way of life that we see it is right now, the way that we're living life, driving cars, flying planes, trucks, all of these things, man, they're coming to an end, right? They're all coming to an end. The way of this world is coming to an end very soon. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the scriptures say, be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer, being sober-minded, sober in your mind, not necessarily not drinking alcohol, even though it's wise not to drink, more than what's moderation. But it's best to, so like what this scripture is talking about is being sober in your mind, sober in your spirit, not worrying so much about the things of this world, not concerning yourself so much with things that are not of this truth, of this faith, of this ministry, and of the Spirit. Because when we go into this ministry, when we go into this truth, what are we looking at? We are looking at prophecy. We're looking at things that are going to happen that is said and stated in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So, matter of fact, let's go here. That brings me to this scripture. To the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39, starting at verse 1, it says, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies, right? So if you're going to be, if you believe in the scriptures, you believe that you're an Israelite and that, we're supposed to keep the laws to the best of our abilities, and you're meditating on these scriptures, you're going to be occupied in the prophecies. You're going to be occupied in what's happening in this world right now, and then filtering these things out through the scriptures, filtering these things through the Bible, right? Because that's what we're supposed to do. If you're called to be a watchman, if you're called to be a prophet of the Lord, a prophet of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, you're supposed to be watching. You're supposed to be watching and paying attention to prophecy, paying attention to the things that's going on out here in this day and age, right? And see how they line up. See how they line up with prophecy, right? For example, with this whole Epstein files and things like that, right? That's prophecy of the Lord revealing these things that the devil has done, that this devil, so-called white man, the Edomite, has done, right? And is doing and continues to do. You know what I'm saying? Because it says in the end that the Lord is going to reveal the deeds of the wicked. You know what I'm saying? The Lord is going to reveal all of these things that this devil is doing and has done over the course of history. You know what I'm saying? Things that we particularly don't know about. You know what I'm saying? And when you even look at this whole Epstein files thing, right, that just proves who the devil of this world is, right? Because, yeah, you have the spiritual demon Satan, but you also have the physical spawn of Satan, right? You have a physical spawn of Satan here on earth. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand and know that, right, in order to understand biblical prophecy and what's really going on out here in the world, right? Because we're close to the end, right? We're very, very close to the end, right? Because we only have a few more prophecies. We only have a few more prophecies, man, really to be looking out for before, it's all over, right? And when I say it's all over, meaning it's all over for this kingdom, right? And what we look for, man, we look for deliverance, we look for salvation, we look for the miracles of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah to play out in our lives, right? Right, being delivered, right, being delivered in out of tribulation, being delivered out of particular tribulations, through in the time period called Jacob's trouble, which we're honestly in the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because we see these things going on with ICE. We're looking at this devil, trying to bring forth draconian laws, trying to bring forth different policies and things that are going to basically give him the green light and the power to, basically disregard, any level of human rights, any level of the Constitution, or really humanity. Because what this devil, what his goal is to reach a point of complete control of all humans on earth, basically. That's why he's going to bring about MOTB, right? The mark of the beast, the MOTB. That's why he's going to bring out, which is the microchip, right? But that's prophesied in the scriptures. That's prophesied in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 6. 16, not verse 6, 16 on down, right? But that's his goal. That's this devil's goal and his objective, right? And that's another sign that we're closer and closer to the end, because this devil, one, he's being exposed, right? He's being exposed on all fronts, and everybody is beginning to see who he is, right? Definitely beginning with Amalek, right? Who was the so-called Jewish people. But this devil is being exposed on all fronts. And all of the people of the world, especially here in America, are beginning to see who this man really is. And even his own people, they're beginning to see who he really is, right? And with this devil being exposed, he's going to push more and more and more for complete control over, number one, your human body, right? And your thoughts, right? They want to take away free speech. You know what I'm saying? Really, they want to take away us being on the highways and byways, and take away us from being on the internet making videos like this. You know what I'm saying? That's really his main objective, right? Because he really wants to wipe out the lineage of Israel, the lineage of Jacob, who are the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He really wants to get rid of us and take hold of the take back his birthright, right? He wants to take back his birthright, which he sold, which all in all, it was the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. It was the will of the Heavenly Father for the birthright to go to Jacob, right? But that's just how the story played out. And that's his goal, is to take back take back the birthright, right? But look, let's go ahead and get into these scriptures. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 3. I'm gonna start at verse 3, and it reads, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars, rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet," right? So we're seeing rumors of wars. We're seeing wars beginning to come about, right? The rumors of wars is really going into like the talk of war happening, right? Like, for example, America and Iran, right? You got this growing conflict or whatever, where tensions are getting high between America and Iran, really behind the backs of that nation state of Israel, the 1948ers, really behind the backs of them, because that's who they want America to go after. They want America to go after Iran. But that's been a big topic lately. Is America gonna strike Iran or not? Right? That's a rumor of war. Israel going to war with Iran, another rumor of war, right? But we also see conflicts happening. For example, with Russia, Ukraine, and all those in that area up there. You got various different conflicts going on in Africa. You got other conflicts going on in the Middle East and things like that, right? So there is a thing of wars happening, and then the talk of war happening, right? And we can see these things playing out in these world events. Verse 7, it says, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places," right? The threat of famine is heavy here on Babylon. With me being a truck driver, there's one thing that one big trend that's going on right now is you got a lot of smaller truck companies, smaller trucking companies that are basically either filing for bankruptcy or just closing their doors, you know, and a lot of them are closing their doors because or filing for bankruptcy because, well, one, they're over leveraged. They've got too many. They've got too much debt that they can afford, and two, like the freight industry has been on a downturn for the past couple of years, right? So you got a lot of people who complain about the rates being low, or there not being a whole lot of freight, or you know what I'm saying, truck drivers complaining that they're not making enough money, um, various different things in that industry. But truck driving is or truck drivers and semi trucks are um, really one of the main ways that America gets its goods, or America transfers its goods throughout the country, is by semi truck. So if a lot of these trucking companies are not doing good because of a freight downturn, that's an indication of this whole economy in general, that this whole economy is in a downturn, which they don't want to tell people that. They don't want to tell the masses of people that because they don't want people to panic. Because when people start to panic, people start to look for other solutions. And then when people start to look for other solutions, then that usually brings about change, opposite of the status quo. You know what I'm saying? And that's something they don't want to happen. They want to keep people asleep, and they want to keep people docile so that they can stay in control and stay in power. Like, for example, when you look at this whole Epstein file thing, you see a lot of outrage on the internet, but nobody's really taken to the streets or anything like that for this. And this is a big thing. And this is why, like, I believe the way that the way that they released these things, they released things with a lot of like I don't know the right word to use, but like they released these Epstein files with a lot of like uncertainty, or trying to give the illusion of uncertainty of what's real and what's not real. And then they redacted a lot of things, which means they covered up a lot of faces, names, and things like that of people who were involved. And you got to think about that. That's a side note. Think about that, like the people who are the ones doing the editing for these files, and they're seeing what it is for what it is before they edit. Like that's probably some crazy shit just to think about. But I believe they put it out with the saying that, okay, yeah, we're putting it out there, but we can't tell you what's real and what's fake, to give people a lot of doubt on the whole situation. Even though we know, like, a lot of this shit is probably real. A lot of this shit is probably has happened and is happening. But they Salakia, they want to keep the people docile. They want to keep the people passive, right? So that greater change won't come about, right? Verse 8 says, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Where can we read that at? We can read that in the book of Second Esdras, the beginning of sorrows, chapter 16. Matter of fact, let me go there. Right, let me start at verse 17. The second Ezra chapter 16 and verse 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague and tribulation, anguish are sent as scourges, Salakia, are sent as scourges for a minute, right? But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges, right? So all of these things, man, famine, plague, tribulation, right? All of these are going to be for what? For the amendment of who? The wicked, right? But these people are not going to turn from their ways. They're going to double down on their ways, right? They're going to go through all of these things and double down on their ways, right? Because we're going to have famine. There's going to be various different plagues going on, right? And there's going to be a lot of death in the days coming up, right? There's going to be a lot of death in the days coming up, right? Because the Lord is going to bring about punishment for the wicked of our people as well, and just really the ways of Yahweh Bashim being disregarded in the earth. You know what I'm saying? So the Lord is going to bring about judgment for that. The Lord is going to bring about a great judgment for that. You know? So this is it's going back to Matthew chapter 24. Back to verse 9, it says, "Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." Right? We're seeing, a lot of people bugging out nowadays. A lot of people, going out of their minds. People doing and committing these horrific crimes, like putting babies in ovens. Kids, turning on their parents and killing their parents for the smallest, minute things. You know what I'm saying? I can't play the game, or you took my cell phone away from me, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? People killing each other for the smallest things. You know what I'm saying? I was watching some video the other day, and it was basically where somebody got into an altercation and somebody just started shooting at them. And it's like you can barely, like, if somebody does something, you can barely confront people just on some respect shit. And people want to grab a gun and start shooting at you. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of world that we live in today. But this is the world that Esau has manufactured, because number one, man, these people are stressed out. People are bugging out. Inflation is rising. Things are becoming less and less affordable. The cost of living is continuously rising. People can barely pay their bills. People can't save money. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of people making payments using things like Klarna and all of that, on like DoorDash orders and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Paying half now, half later for some chicken wings. Like, this is the reality that people are living in, and people are at the breaking point, basically. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of people that's walking around here with a lot of burdens. You know what I'm saying? Walking around with a lot of just frustration, confusion, not knowing why things are the way that they are. So you got people who are like on edge, really. You got a lot of people that are on edge and ready to just crash the fuck out, because their life is already, the fucked up, really. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people's lives are fucked up. You know, right? And that's just the world that we live in, because people are on edge because of that. Right? Verse 13, it says, "But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." Right? He that shall endure unto the end, being in this truth and in this ministry, shall be saved. Right? If you keep the faith, despite all of these things that are going to be happening around us, famine, tribulation, people wilding out, bugging out, because this is going to get worse, right? There's going to be something that's going to happen here in Babylon the Great that's just going, everybody's just going to snap. It's going to snap, and it's going to be, you know, GTA San Andreas. What's the mode? You put the cheat code in. I think it was what, apocalypse mode or something like that. Something like that, where it's like everybody just going crazy, or riot mode, everybody just going crazy, burning shit, shooting each other. That's how it's going to be. That's really how it's going to be out here in the world, man. Like, we're getting to that point. You know, we're getting to that point where everybody is just going to be wilding the fuck out. But you got to be ready for that in the spirit. You got to be ready for that to be happening spiritually. You know what I'm saying? Or on a spiritual level. That's why we prophesy. That's why we are considered the watchmen. We're supposed to be watching all of these things that are going on, because people may say, well, why do y'all always do videos on, you know, like when people do particular crimes that seem just like they don't really have anything to do with the ministry or the scriptures or anything. Well, we can go in the scriptures and we can just bring out some type of edification, right? But some of these things are precursors to what's going to happen. Some of these things are going to, you know, they're just a preview of what's going to be very prevalent out here in the world, right? Verse 14, it says, "This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come," right? So, you know, we believe that this gospel has reached the four corners of the earth through these videos on the internet, really mainly through these videos on the internet, because that's how nowadays, that's how majority of Israelites come to know about the truth, is the internet. You know, YouTube videos, even some other social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok, because you got, you know, brothers on there posting videos and things like that. But the internet has done a lot of the heavy lifting of this ministry and teaching and pushing this word out to the four corners of the earth. You know, the internet has played a very huge part in that. I'm going to read a couple more on this. Matthew 24, it says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand." Yeah, let me keep going. It says, "Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to his clothes." It says, "And woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight not be in the winter, neither on the Sabbath," right? Now, this is particularly talking about 70 AD. But what we're about to go through is going to be 70 AD on steroids, right? Because look, verse 21, it says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor never shall be." Right? Now, this is particularly talking about the end, the times that we're living in now. Because when you read the book of Daniel, chapter 12 and verse 1, it says basically the same thing. There's going to be a time like never before on the earth, right? A time like never before, right? Especially with the technology and things that they have. You got we got drones, AI, different types of camera systems, things like that, right? You know, um, I seen a article where Elon Musk is he's stopping the production of the Model X and the Model S Teslas to focus on the production of um, what, 1 million humanoid robots, right? And I think he said he wants to get to be able to producing 1 million humanoid robots per year. Like that's where the world is heading right now. You know what I'm saying? The world is heading towards robotics, right? All of these movies that we see, like iRobot, um, and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like these things are like going to happen in real life. Like I was watching Elder Yashawamba's um live camp. He was out there in Memphis with the Elder Apostle Ram Lab. And they were talking about, like, in these movies, a lot of these movies are a way of telling you what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's a way of these elite to communicate and tell you what's going to happen, because one thing that they believe on, like, it's like a principle of, like, satanistic or satanic worship, where they got to tell you that they're about to do evil before they do it. So that way it's like, all right, you knew about it. You know what I mean? But they do it in a way, they put it in these movies to where it's like, we think it's just movies. A lot of these movies are really predictive programming, right? Predictive programming, or to tell you, look, this is what we're about to do. We're about to come out with these robots. You know what I'm saying? We're about to come out with AI. All of these particular different things that they get into, man. So it's going to be a day like it never was before. Verse 22, and it says, except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh be saved. Before the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened, right? So the Lord is shortening up the days, right? A topic I remember we were talking about back in August, because there was, like, in July, I want to say June and August, there were like 3 or 5 days where, like, these days were less than 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? They were, like, short by like a second or two, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Which seems like a small amount of time when you think about it, but, like, it's really not, because, like, when we look at things, like, it don't even seem like you have enough time to do what you got to do during the day, man. Like, it seems like you wake up in the morning, you go to work, and then it's like, come home when the day is over. That's kind of what it seems like, but that's Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai shortening the days for us. Because if he didn't shorten the days, man, and speed up the time, like, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't really have no hope. Because this devil would, he's fucking up the atmosphere, the ecosystem, the food, so much to the point, as long with coming out with his AI, artificial intelligence, artificial humans, these humanoid robots. You know what I'm saying? And his agenda to really dominate and control every single human on the world, while also shrinking the population of the world and everything like that. Like, yeah, that's why the scriptures say, unless these days were shortened, no flesh will be saved. You know. It's the book of Second Peter, chapter 3, and verse 10. It says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Right? So there's going to be a day and a time, right? And that day and a time that this is talking about is talking about um, when these nuclear ICBM missiles hit America, Babylon the Great. That day and that time, that's going to be the day when this kingdom, Esau Edom's kingdom, is officially closed. It's officially over, right? And then from then we will be, when we come down, when the elect, Lord willing, I and my fellow brethren, we be of the elect. When we come down from those chariots, we will be establishing the kingdom of heaven, establishing the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, which in turn will be the kingdom of Israel. You know what I'm saying? In the new bodies, right? But the works of this world, man, the ways of this world, the ideologies, the philosophies, things like, um, things like feminism, um, again, things like feminism, um, Moism, if you know what Moism is, you know, um, it's like, yeah, I'm here knocking. Ain't my door, but I'm here knocking at the bottom of my, must be downstairs or whatever. But Moism, feminism, gangsterisms, freakisms, all of these wild off isms. These niggas get on my nerves, man. Hey, you just knock, like you just knocking on somebody's door like that, bruh. It's 10 o'clock at night, man. I'd be pissed the fuck off. You know it's a bitch. You know it's a goddamn woman, man. Anyway, man. But all of these isms, man, these off worldly isms that have nothing to do with the scriptures and that are going off and going against the scriptures, man, they're going to be destroyed. They're going to be long gone, forgotten, right? In the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to be mandated through the earth and is going to be enforced by the nation of Israel. Whoever that is, man, they not home and they don't want Slakia, man. It's getting on my nerves, all that knocking, man. Whoever that is, they don't want to answer their door. Just go. Just leave. Anyway, man. Anyway, it's like oh my God, Slakia is just distracting. Let me focus. Anyway, man. The way it is, like shit like that, man. Ain't gonna be no more of that. Ain't gonna be no more Eve, popping up at your house, banging on your fucking door, cause you know what I'm saying. She think you got another woman in your shit. Ain't gonna be none of that. That's gonna be burned up with this world. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be no more. All of these things are gonna be no more. All of that's gonna be no more, man. So and that's what we look forward to, man. That's what we look for. We looking for, you know, we looking for a new heaven and a new earth, right? So let's go ahead, get into this Revelation chapter 21, Starting at verse 1, it says, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea," right? Now, the earth itself is not going to be destroyed, right? The earth itself is not going to be destroyed, but it's going to be refreshed, renewed. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a reset, basically, if you want to say that. It's going to be a hard reset in the earth, you know? Verse 2, when it says, "And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming from the Most High out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and the Most High himself shall be with them and be their God," or be their power. "And the Most High shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away," right? All of the things that we have to go through in this world, man, pain, sorrow, just the issues that we go through in this world, man. Issues with your job, issues with your woman, issues with your children, issues with your family, issues with random fucking people out there on the streets. You know, us seeing going out there in the world, and we just vexed every time we see something. You know what I'm saying? Every time we see something that's, it's like, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? It's, you know, this government, man, this society, taxes, the financial system, you know what I'm saying? The money system, all of these things, man, we're not going to have to worry about these things anymore, right? Because what? We're going to be on top, right? We're going to be in our rightful place as rulers of the earth, right? We're going to be in our rightful place as kings and priests, right? Of this whole entire universe, really. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to have access not only to this earth, but other worlds. But first, we're going to start off with cleaning up the earth. That's what we're going to start with, is cleaning up the earth and reestablishing power and rulership here on earth in righteousness, man. Reestablishing a righteous way, right? And us as Israelites, we're not gonna have to experience death. You know, things like death, being unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? Sickness, right? We're not gonna have to experience these things no more. And this is what we're laboring for, man. This is what we're laboring for. This is why we're doing these videos. This is why we are going out there on the highways and byways. You know what I'm saying? This is why we're doing these things, man. It's a reward at the end. People ask, people may ask us why we do what we do. We do what we do because of this, right? Because of this reward that's at the end, this promise that the Lord gave to us, right? Starting with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our forefathers. This is why we do this. Because we're tired of being here in this captivity. We're tired of living here in this world full of evils, full of degeneracy. You know what I'm saying? Full of lying, full of wickedness. We're tired of living here in this world, man. And as it says in the scriptures, the wicked shall wear out the saints, man. You can tell, I'm doing this video. I'm a little tired. You know what I'm saying? But hey, we got to do what we got to do. You know what I'm saying? We got to do what we got to do for this ministry, right? For Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. Because, like, we're supposed to hope for the end. We're supposed to look forward to the end. Not like a lot of other camps, like IUIC, for example, looking to build land or buy land and build on that land and take that on and go down that route, man. That's the mindset of somebody who wants to stay here, right? That's the mind of somebody who's not really looking for the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai. You know, they want to stay here in Babylon the Great and stay in this wickedness, and stay in this wicked place, stay as a subordinate and a second class citizen, not having power to control, you know what I'm saying, necessarily your family, certain outcomes in your life and things like that, you know, being at the bottom of society, right, or being considered at the bottom of society. These are the things that we got to go through. But once we get to the kingdom of heaven, once Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah delivers us, destroys this kingdom, and puts us in our rightful place, and crowns us, and gives us those righteous crowns for the rewards, or for the reward that we have earned by continuing on in this ministry. Hey man, it's gonna be a beautiful time, and it's gonna be like a time that we can't even imagine. You know what I'm saying? Being able to live, have endless life, unlimited life, living forever and ever and ever. Death will be no more thing. Like that's one of the main things that I'm looking forward to. Death being no more thing. We got unlimited time to do whatever we our hearts desires. You know what I'm saying? All in righteousness, man. And it's all promised to us. So, I didn't get through all of the scriptures I wanted to get through. Maybe I'll get on here again sometime and get the rest of those, man. But for now, you know, Lord willing, this video lesson has been edifying. Giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chakurash. And until next time, Shalom.